Hi, my name is Anneke Oosten from Mr. Carlson's Period 1 AP Biology class, and you're watching The Origin of Species, a Chapter 24 review. Today we'll be talking about important aspects of speciation, which is the process by which one species splits into two or more species. Our first main idea is that the biological species concept emphasizes reproductive isolation. The biological species concept is pretty much saying that a species is a group of populations that can interbreed with each other and produce viable offspring, but cannot do so with other groups. For example, these two rats of the same species can breed with each other and produce a viable offspring, but this rat and a mouse of a different species cannot breed and produce a viable offspring. So now that we know what a species is, the next question is, how do populations form distinct species? Well, given that we defined species through reproductive ability, reproductive isolation is the best answer. Reproductive isolation only means that there are biological barriers preventing species from interbreeding, and there are two main types of it. Prezygotic barriers prevent mating from occurring at all. An example of a prezygotic barrier is temporal isolation, in which species breed during different times. This species of ladybug is nocturnal and mates at night, while this species mates at peak heat during the day. Because of that, they do not interbreed and remain separate species. The other type of barrier is a postzygotic barrier that has to do with offspring viability rather than creation. If the ladybugs could reproduce, but the offspring had impaired development due to genetic issues, it would be considered a postzygotic barrier. This ladybug will never reach full maturity and be able to reproduce like its parents because of postzygotic genetic barriers that cause deformities. The next main idea is that speciation can occur with or without geographic separation. Geographic separation takes place when gene flow is impedimented by a physical barrier. When a series of large floods created a permanent river barrier in this ant's habitat, the two halves could not interbreed, and changing conditions on one half caused them to evolve into a different species over time that could no longer interbreed with the species on the opposite side, even if the river were to somehow disappear. Sympatric speciation is speciation in populations that are not separated by geographic area. One example is polyploidy, in which errors in cell division result in offspring having an extra set of chromosomes. The resulting individual is called an autopolyploid. If the autopolyploid can reproduce, it is called an allopolyploid. They become a separate species because they can breed with each other, but not with their parents because the parents have fewer chromosomes. The majority of polyploidy will occur in plants, with about 80% of new plant species originating through polyploidy. Sexual selection may also occur, in which mate choice, usually the females being choosy, causes populations to remain separate and not interbreed. Our third main idea is that hybrid zones reveal factors that cause reproductive isolation. For our discussion, hybrid zones are areas where members of a different species can meet and mate, such as with these beetles. The yellow-backed beetle survives best in a climate ranging from 23 to 30 degrees Celsius, and the blue-backed beetle lives in a climate ranging from 28 to 36 degrees Celsius. There is a small area of land in which they both can survive and breed to create hybrids, meriting the name hybrid zone, represented here by the crisscrossed area where the climates overlap. Sometimes the hybrids are viable and can create a new species, but often that new species is less fit than the parent species and does not reach a reproductive state. Reinforcement is when the offspring are less fit and reproductive barriers are enforced. The last main idea of this chapter is that speciation can occur rapidly or slowly and can result from changes in few or many genes. Going back to earlier in the video, speciation is the process by which one species splits into two or more species. Patterns in the fossil record often reveal how long speciation takes. Some species change gradually over time, while other species arrive suddenly with novel attributes and then change very little until their extinction. Oop. Those periods of stasis, broken up with periods of sudden growth, are referred to as punctuated equilibria. As you can see here, these species have a common ancestor. However, these arrived suddenly with novel attributes and then pretty much didn't change until they went extinct, while these changed very gradually over time. Overall, speciation can take a couple 100,000 to several million years, giving scientists an idea of how long it would take Earth to recover from a mass extinction event. This has been all for today's Chapter 24 Origin of Species review. Thank you so much for listening.